So we're looking at a really strange contradiction today. On page 1 of the sources, you get Jesus healing a fever with a single touch. It's, absolute compassion.
Right.
You turn the page, and suddenly he's telling a guy he can't even go bury his own father. How do we reconcile those two versions of the same person?
It is jarring, isn't it? We're looking at Matthew 8.14-1022, and the source material really argues that this whiplash is intentional.
Intentional?
Yeah, it's designed to force us to ask what it actually costs to follow this path. Because the argument here is that being a Christian isn't about stability or comfort. It's about prioritizing one thing over literally everything else.
Okay, so let's start with the compassion side of the coin. We're in Peter's house. His mother-in-law is sick with a fever. Jesus walks in, touches her hand, and boom, fever gone.
It's the kind of miracle everyone wants, but you have to catch the detail right after the healing. The text says she immediately rises to serve him.
Right, she goes straight to work.
And that connects to the prophecy mentioned in the notes, the one from Isaiah. Jesus took our illnesses. In this moment, it looks like absolute triumph. It looks like the kind of movement you'd want to join because it solves your problems.
Yeah. And people definitely notice, because immediately after this, a scribe, a religious scholar, walks up and volunteers.
Yes.
He says, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go."
And this is where we need to pause, because a scribe isn't just a random fan. This is the elite. He brings social capital, legitimacy, legal expertise.
In modern terms, this is like a struggling startup getting an offer from a top-tier investor. You'd think Jesus would just roll out the red carpet.
Exactly. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you. But he doesn't. He effectively scares him off. He looks at this VIP and says, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head."
He's basically saying, "I'm homeless."
He's stripping away all the perks. He's telling this guy that following him means abandoning any pursuit of stability or wealth or a permanent home. He rejects the guy who is clearly chasing comfort.
Okay, but here's the irony that just drives me crazy. He pushes away the enthusiastic volunteer, but then he turns to another disciple, someone already on the team, and refuses to let him leave.
Right. This is the disciple who asks, "Lord, let me first go and bury my father."
Wait, hang on. That is a completely reasonable request. In fact, it's a duty. "Let me bury my dad." And Jesus' response is, well, it sounds straight up cruel.
It does. "Follow me and leave the dead to bury their own dead."
How is that consistent with the healing Jesus we just saw?
It sounds incredibly harsh to our ears, but the sources argue this isn't about cruelty. It's about the terrifying urgency of the call. The point is that discipleship allows for no excuses, not even the biggest social obligation you can imagine.
So the scribe volunteers, and Jesus says, "It's too hard for you." The disciple tries to delay for a funeral, and Jesus says, "No, you have to move now."
Precisely. It's a paradox. He demands everything. And the sources argue that this radical, this uncomfortable lack of stability is actually the origin story of the name Christian itself.
How so? I thought Christian was just the label for the religion.
Not originally, no. The notes highlight that the name first appears in Acts 11.26. It wasn't some brand name the believers chose for themselves. It was a nickname given to them by outsiders.
By outsiders? Why?
Because they were shocked by how different their lives were. They saw a group of people who, like Jesus, prioritized this path over their own safety, their homes, and all the normal social rules.
So they earned the name because they stood out that much.
They carried what the text calls the fragrance of Christ. But here's the warning the source gives. That fragrance isn't always sweet.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about Jesus' own life. He was acquainted with suffering, as Isaiah says. If you carry the scent of someone who was rejected and had nowhere to sleep, you can't expect your life to be all about pursuing honor or, relaxation.
That is a tough reality check. We usually want the fragrance to smell like the miracle in Peter's house order, healing, peace. We don't want it to smell like homelessness or missing a funeral.
And that is the final challenge the source leaves us with. It leaves you with a heavy question. We like the idea of the fragrance of Christ when it smells like a triumph. But are you willing to carry that scent when it smells like rejection or walking away from what society expects of you?
It definitely forces you to look at your priorities a little differently.
It asks if we are looking for a religion that fits neatly into our schedule or if we're responding to a call that might just consume it entirely.